Hey, everybody. I'm interrupting this podcast episode to tell you about the Listening Lab because registration is open and I don't want you to miss it. I've been working on this for months and I'm so excited that it's going to be happening live on July 2nd at noon Eastern. And I want you to come so that you can learn one of my favorite tools, the 3L method. Because you know that moment when you've asked your kids to put on their shoes or do their homework or do a chore and they look at you like you've just asked them to solve some quantum mechanics problem? Yeah, that's the moment we're going to be looking at and examining. That moment where you're thinking, oh, cool, I've become invisible. Awesome. Love that for me. My kids do not listen. I want to just pause for a moment and let you know that in moments like that, typically your kid's brain is on airplane mode. Not kidding. When they become dysregulated, their nervous system goes into this mode where it says, nope, we're closed for business. Try again later. And even though you might have a perfectly reasonable request, it's going to bounce off them like throwing a marshmallow against a brick wall. So I'm going to teach you the 3L method. It's a method I created for myself 10 plus years ago. And we're going to spend 90 minutes learning the theory and the application. You're going to discover exactly how to get through to your kids when their brains have gone full Fort Knox, full lockdown. I'm going to teach you this tool and how you can listen and be present with your kids. When I teach parents this, they'll literally message me saying, oh my gosh, my kids just listened to me. I didn't lose my mind. I haven't yelled all day. So I want to teach this to you as well, because we really do have two choices. We're at this crossroads. We're hitting almost the middle of summer. And you might be thinking, okay, this is going to be a good summer. We're going to turn things around, or I want to get things even better. I want to do something new. We can keep playing the ask over and over and over game and lose our cool and feel like we're needing to use consequences and punishments and rewards to get our kids to do anything. Or we can use the 3L method. You can sign up for the Listening Lab. You can make an investment that's less than a fancy cup of coffee from Starbucks and learn how to use a 3L method to connect with your kids, to get them to want to listen to you, to set limits from a really good place, even when they're melting down. All you have to do is go to cmp.works/listen, and I'll put that in the show notes to make it super easy for you to register. You can come live, which I highly recommend. But if you can't come live, I get that too. We're busy. The replay is going to be there for you whenever you are able to listen to it, because honestly, life's too short to spend it trying to get our kids to listen, especially when it feels like no matter what we do, they don't hear and we end up feeling frustrated. All right. So hope to see you all at Listening Lab. Until then, enjoy today's podcast. Parents interrupt their child within 18 seconds of them sharing something personal that brought up an uncomfortable emotion in them. 18 seconds. Welcome to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast, where correction is out, connection is in, and your kids want to listen to you. I'm Andee Martineau, creator of Connect Method Parenting, here to help you stay calm, confident, and connected no matter what. Hey, everybody. I have something really special that I'm very excited to share with you all. I've been working on it for months, and I can finally reveal what's been brewing behind the scenes. But before I dive into it, I want to ask you a question that's going to set this whole conversation up. So I want you to think about the moment you're having with your kids, and I want you to think about a moment where you can tell your child is trying to tell you something, either because you can tell they're wanting to talk, or they're really out of control and their behavior's all over the place, and you can tell they have a lot of pent up emotion inside of them, but somehow the conversation either goes sideways and never happens. Maybe you start to have it, but then they shut down, or it turns into an argument. That's happened to me before. Or they say, fine, never mind. I don't want to talk about this, or I don't want to do this, or they just leave and they don't say anything at all. They just continue to have crazy behavior. If you're nodding your head right now, I want you to know you're not alone. I've been in this parenting space for years now. As a parent for almost 6 years, which is insane. I can't believe my oldest is that old. I still think I'm 25. So crazy that he's going to be 26 this year. And then teaching all the things that I've learned as I stumbled and fell and got back up about parenting and developmental psychology and attachment theory for so many years. And I've noticed something that no one seems to be addressing directly. You see, we have courses on discipline strategies, emotional regulation techniques. We have workshops on setting boundaries, but there's one fundamental skill that underlines everything else, and it's barely being taught. And that skill is the art of truly listening, I would say, to yourself and to your children. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Of course, I listen to my kids, but here's the thing. There's a massive difference between hearing words and truly listening. Listening in a way that makes your child feel seen and makes them feel understood and heard and safe to share everything that's going on for them, the good, the bad, the ugly, the vulnerable parts, where they want to open up and lay it out on the table with you, talk about it all. Let me share a story that changed everything for me. It was years and years ago when one of my kiddos came up to me. Something was really bothering them. They started talking to me about this issue, about the people that were involved, about the details that had happened, and I immediately jumped into problem-solving mode. I said something like, have you tried talking to them? Maybe you need to be hanging out with different people. When I was your age, I would do X, Y, Z. I started giving all of this advice, trying to make them feel better. And I remember my child looked up at me with tears in their eyes and said, Mom, I just need you to listen. Don't fix this. I just need you to listen to me. Now, I don't know how this child had so much wisdom that they knew that's what they needed. I think what they knew is that they didn't want me to talk. They didn't want me to fix. They didn't want to be told they needed to feel better or to stop hanging out with these people. They just wanted someone to witness them in their existence in that moment. And that stopped me cold. Here I was, trying to be a good parent, learning so much at the time about psychology and development, and I couldn't listen properly in that moment. And that was okay. I'm not beating myself up over it, but it was a profound awareness that hit me of, oh, I know what would serve this child in this moment. Yeah, I reverted back to fixing. I reverted back to discomfort about their emotions. And because of my discomfort, wanted them to not feel this way so I wouldn't feel as uncomfortable. All those old stories. I was so focused on being helpful that I was actually pushing this child away. I wasn't being helpful at all. That was one of the many experiences I had that continued to compel me, motivate me, get me to dive into research, into developmental psychology, into what was going on, because I wanted to be a parent who showed up for my kids, who was okay in their messiness, who made them feel so profoundly seen and heard and safe. I knew that's what I wanted to create. That was the environment I was after. So I kept researching. What I found was shocking. I found things saying that parents interrupt their child within 18 seconds of them sharing something personal that brought up an uncomfortable emotion in them. 18 seconds. And then I reflected back on the experience I had with my child and I was like, well, that's about right. It's about how long I could handle them being upset before I wanted to fix it. But here's what really got me as I dove into the research. Children whose parents practice what researchers call active listening, or I think it's active responsive listening, are 3 times more likely to share difficult experiences with their parents. 2.5 times more likely to come to parents with problems before they escalate. And they're significantly less likely to engage in risky behaviors as teens. This is all just from their parents doing some active, responsive listening. I think intuitively we know, right? We want to be seen and heard. We want to be witnessed. There is a time to problem solve and to fix, but not before we're seen and heard and safe. So we feel that, yet, even though there's all this research to support it, we still jump into the fix mode. There's a lot of reasons why. We want to fix, we want to help, we want to serve, we have compassion. And I couldn't find a single comprehensive program that taught parents singularly how to develop this skill of active responsive listening. Isn't that interesting? We have the discipline programs, we have the books on how to show up, how to play, how to organize, problem solve, all these things, but very few that just focus on this listening. A 2021 study done by the University of Reading involved over 1,000 teenagers and found that when parents used engaged listening techniques, things like eye contact, nodding, verbal encouragement, teens reported that they would be more likely to open up about their feelings and admit difficult behaviors that they had or difficult situations or things they had messed up on in the future. The researchers said in response to this finding that the study has important implications for teenage well-being. Active listening was universally beneficial across all the years of adolescence. And then Yale Medicine showed that teens who felt heard by their parents were less likely to turn to social media for validation and support, and it reduced their risk for depression and anxiety linked to excessive social media use, which I thought was fascinating. And then there was this longitudinal study published in PMC, and it found that positive parent-child communication in late childhood predicted lower levels of both social and physical aggression throughout childhood. So the researchers noted that children who engaged in casual but positive conversations with parents showed significantly less aggressive behavior with peers, which is fascinating, isn't that? And then the CDC data reveals that when parents know where their teens are and who they're with, which comes from open communication, not interrogation, good listening, feeling seen and heard, teens have lower rates of substance abuse, risky sexual behavior, and violence. So in today's world, we have kids who are facing so many challenges that we didn't face when we were kids. Social media pressure. I think the academic stress is more intense than ever before. Questions with peer dynamics and identity questions that are happening both online and offline. And if we can't create a space where they can feel truly heard, where else are they going to turn to figure out these challenges, to problem solve these things they're facing, to talk about their questions as they navigate things? I've seen so many families where the communication breaks down, not because of a lack of love. Absolutely not. I rarely, if ever, have talked to a parent who doesn't have the most incredible love for their kids. So it's not because of a lack of love, but the communication breaks down because of a lack of listening skills. Parents who desperately want to connect, but they don't have the tools, or it feels like the relationships that they had with their kids when they were little vanished as the kids got older, and they're not sure how to restore those relationships. So that's why I'm so excited to introduce the Listening Lab. It's a transformative 90-minute workshop designed specifically to revolutionize how you listen to your kids. Now, this isn't just another workshop. This is a complete methodology that's going to change how you see, how you relate to your kids, how you overcome challenges, how you open up conversations. And I don't use that word lightly. I know, revolutionize and complete methodology, they sound big and bold, and they are big and bold. And I use those words very consciously because I have seen over and over and over again that when we can listen in a profound way with our kids, the trajectory of everything that follows is so much better. So let's talk about what makes the Listening Lab different and unlike anything else out there. First, it's not about what you say, it's about how you listen. So we've all been taught communication is about expressing ourselves clearly, which is true. But with our kids, we also need to master the art of receiving what they're trying to share. Second, it's immediately actionable. You are going to get tools and awarenesses that you can start using that night. And every time I've taught what I'm going to be teaching in the Listening Lab to parents, whether it's in a one-on-one scenario, inside of League, or inside of CMP Mastery, inside of Pivot, inside of another kind of workshop, parents will reach out and say, oh my gosh, it started working the same day. Now, the third reason I believe that Listening Lab is unlike anything else out there is because it addresses the neuroscience, the attachment theory, the developmental psychology that's behind all of it. Because when you are understanding what's going on behind the scenes, when you realize that, hey, if my child is dysregulated, their brain literally can't process what we're saying. It's like trying to have a conversation during a fire alarm. So we need to understand what's going on. We need to know how to move forward when their brain is offline or dysregulated. Because once we understand this, then everything begins to change. And because we address those three things, it's about listening, it's immediately actionable, and we address the theory behind it. This is a complete three-prong package, or approach is probably a better way to say it, that will help us get to the essence of what it takes to create a solid, amazing relationship with our children. How to profoundly witness them and listen to them, which will change the trajectory of your parenting. It will change what those conversations look like. It will change how you give directions. It will change how you deal with kids when they're frustrated about something, which will change every area of your parenting. Because once we start being able to show up with this skill set, with this ability to listen profoundly, our impact changes, our influence changes, our kids start wanting to listen to us. There's a chain reaction that starts to happen. Let me share what happened with a client of mine who had come to me because her 14-year-old son, she said, had completely stopped talking to her about anything beyond logistics and facts and just bare minimum conversations. If she said how school, he would just say fine, or what did you do today? He would say, nothing really. And she didn't like this. It made her nervous and worried, and she felt bad, and she didn't know what was going on, and she would get upset, and then all of the emotions. You can only imagine. We don't want that. We love our children so deeply. We do not want to have something happen where our kids pull away or we feel like it's not working. So we started working on this, and I said, hey, what if you stopped trying to get him to talk to you and you just listened to him? You just came alongside him, and I'll teach you all of this stuff in the workshop with the listening lab. But we talked about what it would look like for her and got really clear on her showing up for him. And it didn't take very long before things started to soften between them and conversations started to grow until they were having conversations about school and girls and friends. And she said, I just listened to the way you explained it. And then I tried it over and over again with my son until I got it right, and lots of mess ups, but I didn't give advice. I didn't share my opinions. I just listened, and he kept talking and talking and talking. And it was fun because in her mind, she didn't think this was ever going to be possible. She could hardly believe it was the same kid that she had come to me originally about. And I share that because you might be thinking, well, there's a lot of things I've got to do, Andee. There's a lot of behaviors I need to fix. And what I want to say is, what if that's not true? What if there's a lot of listening that needs to be had? A lot of presence that needs to be poured into them? What if that's the solution? And I'm going to be honest, creating this program, it feels a little risky because first, it's vulnerable. I'm asking you to slow down in a world that values quick fixes. I'm suggesting that the answer isn't in doing more, but actually in doing less talking, less fixing, less directing. And second, it challenges conventional parenting wisdom because so much of what we've been taught is about being an authority, about having answers, about guiding our children. And we're going to flip all of that on its head in the listening lab. And the third reason why it's so risky for me to do this listening lab workshop for you all is because I am probably going to lose money on it, but I don't care. I've come to that conclusion. It's going to be okay. I just want it to be very affordable. And I've had people say and maybe the price will be different when you go check this out. If you're listening to this down the road, I'm hoping that I can offer it to someone I want you to come live. If you're listening to this live, come live because it's going to be so much better if we can interact. But let's say you're listening to this 5 months down the road and you're like, oh, let me go check out this listening lab. It looks really interesting. It sounds really fascinating. The price might be different, but right now it's so affordable. I hope you will take it seriously. I might have to raise the price just so people realize this is not some silly freebie that isn't going to be power packed with the most incredible information it is. So it almost feels wrong giving it away at this price because I don't want someone to undervalue it at just what it is right now when I'm recording this. It's $7. And I know some people are going to think, well, that can't have very much value in it then. But I've priced it in a way that is so low not because of the value. It's not a reflection of the value, but it's because I want every parent to have access to these tools. So no matter how much you make, $7 is something that everyone should be able to swing. And I do want you to invest in this enough so that you take it seriously. How many things have we been given for free that could be so valuable that we don't take seriously because they weren't something that we put any of our investment into? In fact, I just saw this Instagram reel. I thought it was so profound. Somebody had a bag of gold bars. They were thin, so maybe more of like a gold wafer, but it was a rectangle. And he had it in this pouch, and he was on the street, and he was finding random people in the city and saying, do you want this? And he wasn't saying what it was, but he was, showing, it looked like gold, but there's lots of fake gold, but this was real gold. And he was handing it out, and lots of people were like, no, 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 no. And someone was commenting on it. It was one of those stitches where someone shows someone else's reel and they comment, and the guy commented on it and said, isn't this so true about the offers that we sometimes make to people, the value of a product that is put out into the world? And some people are so unable to see the value because it's free, right? That they can't even accept something that truly has value. So that's a little tangent that hopefully made sense. I just thought of it as I was sharing this with you, but that is part of why I'm a little nervous offering it for $7, because I think some people won't take it seriously. But just know, it might not be $7 when you're listening to this anymore. It might be $97 now, which would still be very reasonable for what we're going to be talking about. But for right now, at this moment, when this episode comes out, it's going to be $7. And I'm going to be doing it live at the end of the month. And if you want something that is powerful and simple, this is your ticket. You want to buy a ticket to this event. Here is the revolutionary truth that I'm going to share with you during the listening lab. You don't need more parenting strategies. You don't need fancy parenting scripts. You don't need a special tone of voice. You need to do less, not more. And in the listening lab, you're going to learn one thing, just one thing. I'm going to teach you one single thing, but it's the one thing that will change everything. It's the art of truly seeing and hearing your child. I'm going to teach you the theory behind why your current listening isn't working. And I just want to say this up front. It's not because it's anything that you're intentionally trying to do. It's not your fault. It's just how we were all taught, but we're going to unpack that so we know what not to do. And then I'm going to give you this one simple tool. I call it the 3L method, which is going to help you master the art of truly seeing and hearing your child. That's it, one tool. But here's why it's all you need. The 3L method isn't a technique you memorize. It's a way of being with your child that fundamentally shifts how they experience you. It's about creating a space, and I like to call it a sacred space, where your child's inner world can safely emerge. Now, most parenting advice gives you like 47 things to remember in the heat of the moment. I'm just going to give you one. Because when you master this one thing, when you truly learn to see and hear your child, everything else falls into place naturally. So you're not going to need to memorize a script, no voice modulations to practice, no complicated steps. You're just going to have a profound shift in how you show up that will revolutionize not just how you listen, but I dare to say the entire trajectory of your parenting. When you start to get the hang of this, things begin to shift. Parents who've learned this tell me things like, my child went from grunting at me to telling me their deepest fears. Or I finally understand what's really going on when they melt down. Or it's like I'm seeing my child for the first time. As you can tell by what they're saying, this isn't about adding more to your parenting toolkit. It's actually about maybe taking some things out, stripping away everything that's getting in the way of true connection. So let's talk about the workshop experience and what the listening lab is going to look like. It's a live 90-minute workshop. We're going to do it over Zoom. If you can't make it live, don't worry. You're going to get access to the replay so you can go through on your own. But just know live is where it's at. You want to come. You're going to register today for $7. If you're listening to this in the future, it might be different. It might not be available. I'm not really sure, but it'll probably be more expensive, but you can still go check it out and see if we're still giving you access to it. You're going to get the Zoom link so you can come live. You're going to get a workbook to support you through the learning and implementation of it. And we're going to spend 90 minutes where I teach and demonstrate and answer your specific questions. And you're going to leave with this one tool that you can use that night. And just really quick, I want to share feedback from other parents that I've taught this skill to, taught this tool to, I don't know what to call it, the art of really listening to our kids. But they've told me things like, I haven't raised my voice in 2 weeks. My kids are listening. We're enjoying each other again. Or this has seriously changed my heart and brain. Can't imagine where I'd be without it. So worth it. Or my 8-year-old is blossoming and maturing before my eyes. It's incredible. This has been priceless. And that could be you. That's what I want for you, is come learn the art of powerfully witnessing and listening to your kids, and then feel the shift. Let's talk about who this is for, because the Listening Lab certainly is not for everybody. But it is for you if you sense your child has things they want to say or share, or there's emotion inside of them that's maybe coming out a little aggressively. There's something blocking them and you want to help them. This is for you. Or if you have conversations with your kids that often turn into arguments, or one of your kids shuts down, this is going to be a great fit for you. If you find yourself giving advice and maybe saying too much, that's totally was one of my things. It totally was something I struggled with. I wanted to talk and explain and give advice, and it would turn into a little bit of a lecture. If that's you, this Listening Lab is for you. I have to pause for a minute. I wasn't going to say this, but I remember distinctly as I was saying that last little phrase about, if you find yourself giving advice and maybe that's not what's needed. This moment where my son, my oldest, he will be 26 in October. He said to me one time, Mom, we don't need you to say that anymore. We've heard it. You've said it already. Stop talking. And he was just really clear with me of like, stop giving us advice. We do not need advice. We do not need you to tell us again why we shouldn't be doing this. And I remember thinking, okay, thank you for the feedback, because I was very underdeveloped in being able to come alongside and listen profoundly. So if you have a child who's ever done that, this is for you. If you want to be the person your child comes to first, not last, of all the people, the friends and the other relatives that they could go to, if you want to be one of, if not the person that your child turns to first to get advice, to talk something through, this is going to be such a good fit for you. And last but not least, if you're ready for a different approach, you've used the discipline, you used the consequences, you've tried the bribes, you've tried the timeouts, nothing's worked long-term, then come on in. This is for you. And I will say that this works for kids of all ages, from tiny to all the way up. I would say with my 25-year-old, it's still working. All temperaments, even the spicy ones, it works for them too. So as of right now, the Listening Lab is $7. I know, crazy, right? Kind of a silly price, but $7. I want everybody who's listening to this when this comes out to be able to come in, grab their spot, and not have to think twice about it. And again, I went back and forth on this price. Part of me wants to charge more because I know the value of what I'm teaching, but I kept coming back to one thing. Every parent deserves access to these tools. Every child deserves to feel heard. So I'm initially offering this at $7. And I will say you've probably spent more than that on some fancy coffee or drink that's lasted a couple of minutes, maybe 20 minutes max. And this investment, it's going to last for much longer than 20 minutes. It could really change the way you develop your relationship with your child. I know it has for me. And I was just talking to a good friend who I had taught some of these tools to, and she said, Andee, it's just changing the way I'm viewing my kids. And she gave me 2 or 3 situations just over the last week where, because of her ability to slow down and listen, things were profoundly changing in her life. And I was so thrilled and proud of her. And that's what I want for you too. Now, sometimes people will ask me, well, my child is so strong-willed. Will this work? And I will say yes, especially well, these techniques work beautifully with intense, spicy kids because we're working with their intensity, not against it. And then I've had people ask, again, I can't come live. That's not a problem. You get the replay. But I will say attending live means you can ask specific questions and get answers on the spot, which is so fun. I love interacting with you all when you come live. Other people have asked me, hey, I've tried so many different things. Why is this any different? Now, because you've been trying to change the behavior, that's why this is going to be different. We're not going to try to change their behavior. We're going to work at the root, at the developmental level, at the emotional level. We're going to work with the brain chemistry. And this is a totally different way of parenting and showing up for your kids. Here's what I know is true. When we listen to our kids, everything changes, not just our relationship with us, but how they relate to their peers, their self-esteem, their confidence, their ability to navigate challenges, their future relationships, the way they're able to trust in themselves and in their own voice. And here's something that the research confirms. The patterns that you create now become the relationships you have later. So the teenagers who trust their parents with the hard stuff, they are the kids who have parents who listened to them or are learning to listen to them. And that's what all of us want. So if you attend the listening lab and you try the techniques, you try this way of profoundly listening to your kids, and you aren't seeing the shift, I want you to know that we will support you. We will try to figure out what is going on, what's blocking the progress, why it's not happening. I've never had this happen, but if you get stuck, I just want you to know I stand behind what I teach, and I want you to reach out. We have a little texting line. You can text us and you can say, hey, this is what I've tried, and we will support you. We want you to be successful. But what happens more often than not is parents are starting to report changes the same day. They're starting to see things right away. They'll send a message that very night or say something like, my daughter and I had this conversation that would normally have turned into a fight, but she told me about something that was bothering her. I took my son on a walk when he was fighting with his sibling, and he ended up letting me know about something that had happened earlier that day that I had no idea. Didn't go slam his door. He didn't get mad at me. We had some awarenesses. He got something out. And I felt so connected to him and he felt so safe. I'm getting those. That's what's usually happening. And I believe if you come in and you listen and you learn the things that we're going to talk about during the listening lab, which is really very simple, yet so profound. And when I say simple, doesn't mean easy. It does take effort, but you're going to learn something very simple, one simple tool that if you go out and you commit to doing it, you're going to see a shift. That has been my experience is people who come in and do it, they see the shift. But if you get stumped, I want you to reach out. Now, I truly believe we're at this critical moment in parenting. Our kids are growing up in a world that's different than the one we grew up in. The old models of parenting are not serving them anymore. I've had so many people say, hey, it worked for us. Why? And I don't know all the answers to that, but what I will say is it's really not working for this next generation of kids. They don't have as much tolerance maybe to have this external control way of being taught. It's just not as, I don't know if it was okay with us either, but maybe we got more used to it or it was just something we were okay with at some level. But what I will say from my experience is we have a bunch of kids who just aren't willing to have consequences and rewards be their motivation. And maybe it's because of the social media and the access they have to information and other ways of being. But I do believe that we're in a world where a lot of the old ways are falling off and the new ways that are, and I will say Connect with the Parenting is totally backed by science. It's not some new way. In a lot of ways, it's an old way. If you go to the indigenous tribes, a lot of these ways of parenting are embedded in their culture. So they almost are getting resurrected, reintroduced into our culture again. But it is different. And I love thinking about raising a generation of kids who feel truly heard, who trust themselves, who trust their voice, who feel like they have their own backs because we honored them, we helped them, and we allowed them to become the most emotionally mature, resilient version of themselves, who come to us as their parents with problems before they become crises, and they want our advice, even when they don't need it anymore, when they don't have to have it, when they don't live within the walls of our own, of our home. They still call us and say, hey, Mom, this is what's going on. Can we talk through it? That's the world I'm working to create in my home and the world that I am helping other people create and I want you to create in your home. And we're doing it just one listening parent at a time. So if something in today's episode has stirred something inside of you, that recognition of, yes, this is what I've been missing. I'd really like a little bit of help, some direction. I invite you to join us. The Listening Lab workshop is happening at the end of the month. You can get all of the details at cmp.works/listening. I'll put the link in the show notes so you don't have to remember that, but it's CMP for Connect Method Parenting, but just the first letter of each word, cmp.works with an S at the end, WORKS/listen. And that will take you to the page where you can learn and read all of the things, read about all of the things about Listening Lab. And again, right now, $7, 90 minutes of your time, and you'll be able to transform how you listen with your kids. Now, I want to be real to you. When my child said to me all those years ago, I just need you to listen, it really broke my heart, but it also opened up my eyes. And since then, I've made it my mission to learn everything I could about the art of listening to children. What I discovered changed not just my relationship with my kids, but I will say my entire approach to parenting. Because at the time, my home was kind of a battlefield, It was a lot of me trying to be perfect, trying to help my kids do better, lots of battles. And now I would say it's a home where genuine connection is the most important priority, and it trumps everything. It trumps dishes, it trumps homework, it trumps everything. And I'm not perfect. None of us are. Still human, still messing up, but I am connected. And that child is now an adult, and she tells me pretty much everything. The good, the bad, the complicated. Because she knows I'll listen, and that's what I want for you too. Your child has a rich inner world. They have thoughts and fears and dreams and experiences, and they're navigating things every day that are big and hard and beautiful and messy. And whether they share that world with you isn't about their willingness to talk. It's about our ability to create the space for them to be heard. The Listening Lab, it's not just a workshop. I would say it's your chance to become the parent your child can trust with their whole messy human experience. So I really hope you'll join us. I'm very, very excited about what we're going to be talking about how this is all coming together in such a constrained and focused and powerful way, where we're just going to focus on profoundly listening to our kids and see the ripple reaction, the ripple effect of that in so many areas of our life. So thank you guys for listening today. And thank you for giving me time and space to explain this exciting new thing that's being birthed into the Connect Method Parenting world. I hope to see you all there. You can, again, check it out at cmp.works/listen. And until next time, I want you to remember that the greatest gift we can give our children isn't our wisdom. It's our full presence and our open ears. All right, you all. I love you so much. Thank you for listening today, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye. Thanks so much for listening, you all. If you are ready to learn more about Connect Method Parenting, if you've been listening to the podcast and you think, ooh, I'd love to be able to implement this in my life and with my parenting more, then check out Pivot. It's my 8-week program where we deep dive into learning and implementing Connect Method Parenting so that you can take this information and transform your parenting journey. Head over to connectmethodparenting.com to find out when the next group starts.